Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk, not on IO Radio. From home still, I'm George. I'm joined this week by Dan and Piers. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Another boring week, I guess. Back to work. But football's been decent this week as well.
Yeah, it's been all right. Football's been a bit of a mix of highs and lows, but overall it's been all right.
Yes, football has been highs and lows, especially some big news. Teams going up controversially, teams getting over decision turn controversially as well. But before I get started, if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Pitchside Talk. Instagram's talk_pitch. And if you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, you can go on YouTube to see our beautiful faces on Pitchside Talk. Or if you want to listen to us offline, you can go onto our Mixcloud at Pitchside Talk as well. So we're going to be talking all about this week. Manchester City, they had some big canews. The Premier League, it's spicing up at the bottom and the top of the Premier League. And we're going to talk about the League One playoff final, which has caused a lot of controversy in the League One, especially for some clubs, as somebody got promoted that they did not deserve to be promoted at all, if we can say ourselves. But starting off with Manchester City, back in February, they got a 2-year ban from the Champions League because they breached financial fair play rules. Well, that has been overturned this week by UEFA, so they now can compete in the Champions League for the next 2 seasons. But they will still fine €10 million. That was cut down from 30 million. How big is this decision, guys, that Man City are going to be back in the Champions League? Because if they weren't in the Champions League for next season, that could have been disaster, because we know Pep Guardiola's contract is up at the end of next season. Kevin De Bruyne and Raheem Sterling want to play Champions League football, and Man City want the best players in the world to play for their club.
Yeah, obviously it was a big decision. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, it was a big decision for them. As you said, Pep's contract is coming to an end. Players want to play Champions League football. I'm not going to say that I agree with the decision because I think it's absolutely ridiculous, if I'm being honest. But but obviously it's big for them. Being in the top 4 again and getting into the Champions League for next year. That's where they want to be. So there you go.
Yeah, so for Man City's perspective, it's brilliant for them. Obviously, that's what they want to win. It's the one trophy they don't have. The players they have with Sterling and De Bruyne, obviously 2 key players that they want to keep, and I'm sure they want to strengthen their squad even more after, I would say, a bit of a disappointing season for them. So being back in the Champions League is a huge thing for them. I think if they missed out on all European football at all, I think they would really struggle to gain players. And obviously being able to keep Pep as well is going to be brilliant for
them. Did UEFA make the right decision in overturning this? Because it has been questioned by some of the managers. Jose Mourinho has questioned this. He said this is disgraceful and a disaster for football, as he argued that Man City, if they're innocent, why are they still being fined? That is the big thing. So he's saying that if you're not guilty, why are you still being fined? And Jurgen Klopp said it's not a good day for football, as he believes financial fair play rules are important in keeping both teams and the whole competition safe. But these financial fair play rules have failed once again. We've seen it, I think, with Chelsea that happened, and that ban got overturned on their transfers for financial fair play. PSG, they had a ban that got overturned. So was this the right decision to overturn this by UEFA?
In my opinion, it isn't. I think some of the managers have put across some good points. I think financial fair play rules are there for a reason, and if you go against that, you shouldn't just get you should get reprimanded for that. Obviously, 10 million fine for Man City is pretty much nothing with the amount of money that they have. And yeah, as I can't remember, was it Mourinho said?
It's Mourinho, yeah.
They're not innocent. As they have a fine, so I just don't understand it. They broke the rules, so it's just because it seems like just because they're Man City, they can get away with it, and I think that's really annoying. Like that happens to big clubs. I think teams lower down, that doesn't really happen. Birmingham had the financial fair play stuff. They went into a transfer embargo that didn't get overturned. So yeah, it just, to me, it seems like just because they're a big club, they get these decisions going for them. And for me, they broke the rules, so they shouldn't be in the Champions League. But yeah, it doesn't always go like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a ridiculous decision. I completely agree with Dan. With Mourinho's comments, although I don't like the geezer, I totally agree with his comments. If you haven't done anything wrong, then why are they getting a fine? I don't understand that. So, Man City, I think at least if they got the fine, they should have at least got a 1-year ban. I don't understand why it went, because at first it was them talking about them getting sent to League Two and a 2-year ban. Obviously, the League Two bit's a bit ridiculous, but I would have said at least a 1-year ban to set an example for other teams. I mean, Chelsea got the ban. We still missed out on the first window, so I don't see how that's not fair. Obviously, that was done by FIFA, but I don't see why that's not fair. Why Man City haven't received the ban? I'm sure people will just be saying anybody who's complaining is because their team's not going to be in the Champions League, or can't afford the players. But I think for Man City, they should have at least got a 1-year ban, because I don't think it's fair.
Will we see now teams break financial fair play rules and get away with it again? Will we now see clubs just spend massive amount of money and then just say, do what Man City have, and then just go, oh, that's fine? Will we now see this happen?
Yeah, it's looking likely, because I think teams will look at this and think that they can get away with it. Like it's happened before. I think with the bigger teams, they have the funds that can get away with it. Obviously, teams lower down in the league probably don't. But yeah, it's just annoying to me that teams like Man City and teams that are probably in the top half of the Premier League could probably get away with it. And yeah, you could probably see this happening again to a team in the future that think they can just do what Man City have done.
Yeah, I mean, obviously PSG, that was talked about a little while ago. It was tipped that they had to sell 6 or 7 players to even make it. Obviously, after buying Neymar, I just think a club like Manchester United has spent a lot of money over the last few years. Well, why has nothing happened with them? It's either all okay or all not okay. Either all the teams need to be investigated, or if Man City are going to get away with it, then everybody should be able to get away with it.
Yeah, there seems to be this grey area, because are they breaking it? Are they not? Like, nobody knows. Nobody will ever know now, will we? If Man City are going to get away with it, because the breaches between 2012 and 2016, this big period, I think Chelsea had this big period as well, but it's just nobody knows now, do we?
No, like I don't really know what the rules are. I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's just a bit confusing with how it's going to go. I think obviously Man City have now got away with it. They had a fine, but that doesn't really affect them. So yeah, it's all just a bit confusing for me. And we've seen. It just annoys me that lower teams in the divisions can't get away with it, but teams like Man City can. I think that's just unfair for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dan. I don't see why the lower clubs have to be penalised worse, where the clubs higher up would be better off with those, because you see how much it affects these lower clubs with fines. I mean, it can sink teams in the lower divisions if they have this. So obviously, if Man City, 10 million is not a lot to them. So I'm sure they'll be more than fine.
Yes, they will be more than fine. Well, now Man City can now look forward into the future with Champions League on the horizon for next season. With this ruling, will we now see them spend massive amount of money in the summer and possibly have the strongest squad in the league and Europe, because they are linked with some big players? Højbjerg, Traore, Koulibaly, who else have we got linked? How can I say his name? Nathan Ake, Grealish, and oh my God, I can't say his name. He's from Inter Milan, Skriniar. They're linked with a lot of players. Will we now see them have possibly the strongest squad in the world?
I guess we'll have to see about that. I think they do need to make some additions, obviously, spend some money, because this season has been a failure for them. So I think that they're going to spend some money in this transfer window. It's gonna be interesting to see what additions Liverpool make for next season. I think obviously it's going to be between them two clubs for the Premier League. Yeah, it will be interesting. I don't know if Man City are going to spend like loads of money on getting loads of players in, because I think their squad is good as it is. But they could. I think they want to have a stronger squad for next year. Obviously, now that they're in the Champions League, I think they need to strengthen and see how they do next year.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting for Manchester City. I couldn't see them bringing in like 6, 7, 8 players. I think they've just got to make a couple of additions to strengthen their squad. I think the main areas that they need to work on is the defensive areas, and probably another striker would be nice for them. If Aguero's not on his way out, or Jesus isn't playing as much. So I don't know really. Obviously, like Dan said, we'll have to see how Liverpool do. If they make many signings, I don't think they will make many signings. And obviously teams like Chelsea and Manchester United, who I think will look a lot stronger next season. So Man City will definitely compete, but it'll be interesting to see.
It will be interesting to see. And now moving on to the Premier League, because Man City's rulings now had massive effects on the Premier League, especially if you want Champions League next season. Before we get into that, we have the week's results. So we had 21 games over the course of this week, a lot of games, a lot of big results. So starting off on Wednesday, we had Manchester United Man City beating Newcastle 5-0, Sheffield United beating Wolves 1-0, West Ham losing 1-0 to Burnley, and Liverpool winning 3-1 at Brighton. Thursday, we had Bournemouth drawing 0-0 to Tottenham, Everton drawing 1-1 to Southampton, and Manchester United winning 3-1 against Aston Villa. Saturday, we saw Norwich lose 4-0 to West Ham. Bye-bye, Norwich, as all the Ipswich fans were saying, especially Dan was.
Yeah.
He was saying that. Watford won 2-1 against Newcastle. Liverpool drew 1-1 to Burnley. Chelsea lost 3-0 to Sheffield United, 2 David McGoldrick goals sealed that up for them. And Brighton lost 5-0 to Manchester City. Sunday, we saw Wolves beat Everton 3-0. Aston Villa won 2-0 against Crystal Palace. Big shock result there. Tottenham won 2-1 against Arsenal. And Bournemouth won 4-1 against Leicester City. Wow. And Manchester United drew 2-2 with Southampton on Saturday, and Chelsea won 1-0 against Norwich on Tuesday. Well, starting off at the bottom, starting off with Norwich, they are now the first team of this Premier League season to be relegated. The first team, I think, ever to be relegated in July. I don't think we'll ever see that ever again in our history, in the history of the Premier League. But they lost 4-0 to West Ham. The first team to be relegated 5 times from the Premier League era. Daniel Parker said that the relegation was expected, but I had to ask you, where did it go so wrong for them? Because they had some good results. They beat Man City, they beat Everton, they beat Leicester, they drawed against Arsenal. They had some good results in it, but why did it go so wrong for them?
For me, I think it was probably the lack of signings in the summer. I think as they were coming into this season, if you looked at their squad overall, they didn't really make any proper signings to strengthen their squad. I think the defence they got some good young players, but I think their defence was a big worry. And obviously they did have some good players. And at the start of the season, they did beat Man City. And I think that kind of put into everyone's mind that they were going to stay up, beating Man City. And it's just gone opposite. I just think their squad's not good enough for the Premier League. The squad that they have now. I think Pukki had a good season last year in the Championship. Hasn't really lived up to what everyone thought he was going to be. They've got some good up-and-coming players, but for me, it's just the fact that they didn't really strengthen in the summer, and their squad is just not good enough for the Premier League.
Yeah, agreed. They've got some good young players. Obviously, Todd Cantwell is a really exciting talent. They had a young striker, I forget his name, he come on last night for them. He's quite a good talent, but they seem to have they're in a bit of a transition. Norwich, they've seen got some more Asian players who I would say are more Championship standards, who they haven't replaced. So I'd say that's the main problem with them. I think once they're down, they'll be fine. I'd imagine they'll start to go through a yo-yo stage that they seem to go through Norwich. I could imagine them going back up, but they do need to, I would say, adapt their squad and probably make it more of a Premier League team. Obviously, that was something that Aston Villa tried and it hasn't gone as well. But I would say, yeah, if Norwich can strengthen their squads and keep those young players that they've got, they'll go back up, and I could see them staying up.
So are we putting it down to not having a good window? Because when they first came up, I think a few seasons ago, they splashed the cash everywhere. They went into a bit of a financial trouble through that. But have they did they do that just so they didn't have this problem? If they go back down to the Champions, they're not going to be in this financial trouble?
Yeah, maybe. Teams that get relegated get these parachute payments and stuff like that. They have a hefty sum in the Championship. When Norwich go back down, they'll probably have one of the biggest transfer budgets in the league. But yeah, I think their team's just not good enough to stay in the Premier League, and that's shown. I think after we came back after the lockdown, they've been really, really poor. They've won a single game, I don't think, have they?
No, they've only scored one goal in those 6 games. It's 15-1 on aggregate, apparently.
Yeah, and I do find it funny that people saying that Norwich are the best relegated team in how long, I don't know, but finishing bottom with 21 points. Yeah, that's great relegated promoted team. I mean, so yeah, they just weren't good enough, and that's shown. But as Piers said, I think they're gonna yo-yo, and they're gonna have funds next year, and I won't be surprised if they come back up to the Premier League next season.
Piers, does this highlight that you have to spend now to sort of have a chance of staying up? You can't just come into the season and go, we're not going to spend, we're going to keep the same team. Is that sort of now highlighted? Teams have now got to spend massive amount of cash and hope it doesn't backfire like Fulham and Aston Villa?
Yeah, I was going to just point out, I think you have to, but to a certain extent in a smart way, because obviously you look at Aston Villa, I think they've spent 100 to over 100 million, and they're obviously only a place off Norwich. So it backfires. If it's done smartly, then it works well. But with Norwich, obviously they haven't spent enough, and the problem is this season when they've conceded, they haven't seemed to. When they've conceded first, they haven't had an answer, which is, I don't know whether it's down to lack of talent or to experience from some of the younger players, and that's been their main problem. But I think Norwich always seem to do well in the Championship. So I think what they need to do is just they need to build on that squad when they go into the Premier League, and not expect that those players that have had a really good season in the Championship can do it against these top teams, because there's so many good teams in the Premier League now. It's not just the top 6; it's even the teams like Southampton that are hard to go away to these days. So I think Norwich need to build on their squads a lot more.
Well, staying with the relegation battle, we saw some big wins for Bournemouth and Aston Villa getting some crucial points. They're only 4 points now away from safety. If I look at my table, if I remember correctly. Yes, they are 4 points away from safety. Bournemouth are 3, Aston Villa are 4. Can they pull off the great escape? Can we see this happen, or is it just now too late? Too little, too late, really?
Yeah, I think it's a bit too late. I think they've got a good win and close the gap a little bit, but I just think it's too late now. I think the bottom 3 is going to be obviously what it is. I just don't think the teams in the bottom 3 have had enough to stay up. Obviously, after lockdown, they've some poor results. But yeah, I think it's too late now to kind of say that they're going to stay up. I think the teams that are kind of West Ham and Watford, they've been getting results as well. So I think it's just going to be too difficult, and I think it's too late.
Yeah, I think the bottom 3 will probably stay as it is. I'd be surprised if Bournemouth overtook Watford's, although it's only a few points. But once again, just like Villa and Norwich, Bournemouth have been poor. I think Aston Villa have been the most unluckiest team in the bottom 3, because they've gone to teams and got results, but their problem is they've just been drawn so much. It reminds me a bit of Fulham and when Middlesbrough got relegated. They've had a good side, but because they've been drawing so much and they haven't been picking up these wins when they should be, it's obviously caused where they are. But I think Watford obviously had a terrible start, but they've really picked up. So, and obviously West Ham had a couple of good results lately. So, yeah, I would imagine the bottom 3 will stay as is.
Okay, well, now back to the top 4 with Man City's news. That means Man City will be guaranteed a Champions League place for next season. But now it's not the top 5; it's now the top 4. And this week we've seen all the teams slip up. Really, Chelsea slipped up against Sheffield United. but they have won against Norwich now. They have a 4-point buffer. Leicester cracked against Bournemouth, losing 4-1, and Manchester United missed out on the opportunity to take all 3 points to Southampton, drawing 2-2. Are we now starting to sort of see a few cracks in these teams? Now, I know Chelsea have got this buffer of 4 points, but they've got 2 very difficult games. They've got to travel to Liverpool and they've got Wolves at home, where Leicester, who are absolutely imploded against Bournemouth, have got an all right run, really. They've got Sheffield United at home, Tottenham away, but Manchester United at home on the final day of the season could decide it all. But for Man U, they've got the easiest run with Crystal Palace away, West Ham at home, and Leicester away on the final day of the season. So is this top 4 race over? Or are we now looking at Leicester could slip out, Chelsea could still slip out with their run?
Yeah, I think I expect Chelsea to still be in there at the end. I think, they slipped up, obviously, against Sheffield United, but they got the win yesterday. I don't know, Piers, I don't know if Chelsea played well yesterday. I didn't watch the game. No. Okay, but that's still a win, so that'll help. It is going to be close. I think it's going to go to the last day, especially as Leicester play Man United. I think that'll be a really good game. But no, I don't think the top 4 is set just yet. I think there's still some twists and turns left in this season coming to the end, and obviously Wolves are only 4 points off as well. So I'd say they're in the fight too. But for me, I think Leicester are going to drop out. I don't think they've been good enough after lockdown. I think Man United they've looked really good. I think that they've had some really good results. So I think it's going to be Chelsea and United in the top 4.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, this top 4 race. Obviously, with top 5, there was a bit of security, but now it's starting to get a little bit scary. Obviously, Chelsea hit and miss form. Win 2, lose 1. It seems to be the way at the moment. We seem to be making it just really hard to win games. I'm finding watching Chelsea at the moment. So, obviously, having Liverpool away, I think there's a slight advantage for Chelsea coming into this, because obviously no fans of Liverpool, they've already won the title, whereas Chelsea have got a lot to play for. And obviously after having the response against Manchester City, I think that I can see Chelsea winning this game now. I think for Leicester, coming back from this, they've done terrible. I don't think they'll win against Sheffield United. I think they'll drop points again. And with Manchester United, although they've been doing well, but although when they don't get a pen, they don't win. So, but apart from that, all jokes aside, they're a very good side. So I don't know who will finish 3rd and 4th, but in order. But I would imagine it's definitely going to be Chelsea and United, and I think Leicester will drop below. And I guess I could possibly see Wolves going above Leicester as well and finishing in that 5th spot.
Really? So Leicester's have dropped that much. So has lockdown hit them the hardest? Because we saw at Bournemouth, I don't know what happened, really. They just imploded inside it. It's like the cracks just started to show. Sonchi's now out for the rest of the season after kicking Callum Wilson. He's out for the rest. But will that just be their problem that Brendan Rodgers has had experience of bottling things? We saw it with Liverpool. The title, it slipped away with him against Chelsea very famously. Please remember that one day all together. Crystal Palace. Crystanbul, as it's now famously remembered, but that's not just Brendan Rodgers sort of thing. He hasn't learned from his experiences.
Maybe, but I think with Leicester, I think we saw it in their title-winning season. I think momentum is quite a big thing for Leicester, and obviously they had momentum before lockdown, and they were doing really well. And I think lockdown just kind of messed with that a bit. I think after they came back, the momentum's gone. They need to get back into the swing of things, and they just haven't been on form. Whereas teams like Chelsea and Man United and Wolves, they've kind of been able to get results. So yeah, maybe it's Brendan Rodgers doing the same thing as he always does. But I think I think momentum for Leicester was the main thing and the main problem with why they were so bad after they came back after lockdown.
Yeah, it's definitely why. I mean, you get it. I mean, there was. After a break like that, it's like a new season starting. So a couple of years ago, obviously West Brom almost got themselves into Europe. I think they finished 7th or 8th, and then after that they got relegated the next season. So it's all about momentum. And I think with Leicester, with having such a long break, obviously they've lost that. So obviously they were challenging at one point. People were talking about them overtaking Liverpool. So I think, and then we had the winter break, I believe, and then they started to drop, and then we've had this break now, and they've dropped even more. So it's just momentum. You see it with Sheffield United as well, although they're starting to get results up again. But yeah, I think if the season had continued as it was, I would have still favoured Leicester to finish third. But I think with such a long break, it can either hurt teams or help them. I mean, you look at teams like Southampton; they've come back and it's been brilliant for them. So I think it's just due to the break is why this has happened to them.
Yes, and if you want to see any of our match previews, head over to our Twitter. We've got all of them for Wednesdays. We've got Thursdays as well to do. So stay tuned for that. But now moving on to the League One playoff final. It happened on Monday. Oxford United versus Wycombe Wanderers, a team that shouldn't have been there. Many clubs will argue, but Wycombe Wanderers will be playing in the Championship for the first time in their history after beating Oxford United 2-1. Some interesting facts about Wycombe. At the start of pre-season, they only had 9 players available, favourites for relegation. They got into the playoffs thanks to the points per game basis. They were 8th in the table behind Sunderland and Peterborough. Peterborough occupying that last position in the playoffs, but they got there. People say they don't deserve it because they were 8th at the time, and but it's still an incredible achievement by such a small standard of club. They are such a small club, and how they run, it's a sort of a real underdog story. But does this put some big clubs in League One to shame, really, that they should have been there? We're talking like Ipswich Town, Sunderland, Peterborough, Portsmouth. We're talking a lot of clubs here, Dan.
Yeah, we are. There's a lot of big clubs that maybe should have been there other than Wycombe. I think obviously Wycombe they had a good start to the season. They were top of the league for quite a while, but we all thought and all kind of knew that they'd drop off, and they did. But obviously they were 8th going into lockdown, so they got that luck of the points per game that got them up to 3rd, which was mental. They're up into 3rd place, which I think is mad. But obviously it's gonna cause lots of controversy, I think, especially as a team like Peterborough, who were in the playoffs before the season ended, miss out. And I think the fact that Wycombe and Oxford were 2 teams that voted for the season to end, and the fact that they went on to play at Wembley, I think that's just it's very controversial. And obviously, it's controversial that Wycombe have gone up. I think for me, it's probably the most undeserved promotion I've seen in a while. It really is. From what I've seen of Wycombe, they've got good team spirit. There's no denying that, and they've done a fantastic job, and it's a great achievement for them. But it's just the way they play. It's a word I can't say on the show, but it's annoying. Yeah, I won't. It's annoying. It's an annoying way of playing, and obviously in League One that goes far, and they've done that all season. We should have won the game against them at Portman Road. Still bitter about that, but yeah, I've got to give credit to them though. They've done well to be where they are. They've got a good manager, but obviously it's going to cause a lot of controversy with the bigger clubs in League One.
They're now in the Championship for the first time in their history. Probably one of the smallest clubs, I think, to be in the Championship at this rate. But do they have a chance of staying in the Championship next season, Piers? Could they still pull off this miracle that they're doing at the moment?
Yeah, I haven't seen much of Wycombe this season, so I can't say too much. But I love the underdog spirit. The team that shouldn't have even been there have gone in there and won it, and shook the whole table and caused a lot of controversy. So I quite like that. So it'll be interesting for them to come up. The Championship, I mean, it's the hardest league in the world. I don't care what anybody says. It's the hardest one to get out of, and I'd say it's one of the hardest ones even surviving. So I mean, you look at Luton. They seem to have a good start when they come in, and now they're looking to go down. So I would say it's going to be very hard for them. It depends on the signings. I don't know what sort of financial situation they're in. I can't imagine that they'll be looking to spend a lot of money. So, although going through the playoffs, obviously you get a decent payment, but obviously a lot more when it's championships, the Premier League. So, I don't know really. I probably won't favour them to stay up. I'll probably say they'll go back down just to play it safe.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I can't see Wickham staying up next year. They don't have a budget really. I think obviously going up through the playoffs, as you said, they're going to have a bit of money to spend. But yeah, Championship is a long struggle, and for a team like Wickham, who haven't experienced that before, I think it's going to be difficult for them. And with teams like Norwich who are coming down, teams like Brentford who probably will go through but might not, teams like Cardiff, Nottingham Forest, teams like that that are going to be in the Championship next year. I think it's going to be a really, really big struggle. But they're the underdogs. They might be able to pull off a surprise because we've seen it before. Obviously, with them getting in the playoffs. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But I don't think they're going to stay out next year.
Okay, well, Oxford, who were beaten 2-1 in the final, they're going to be spending another season in League One. But Carl Robson, the Pep Guardiola of League One, as I like to call him, because he likes to moan about playing all these games, fears that a lot of his players will be leaving now after this defeat. Is there now some possibly difficult times ahead for Oxford for next season? Because this looks like there's going to be their real chance of getting into the Championship for the first time since 1999.
Yeah, when Oxford lost that semi-final, I was like, oh, another team that are gonna be up there, and we're gonna have to lose against them at home 1-0. But then, Carl Robinson, he came out and said some of his players are leaving. I don't know about kind of what budget they have. I wouldn't expect it to be high. So yeah, they might struggle next year. I think they've got a very good squad for League One this year. But if there's some of their best players going to leave, it's going to be a struggle, definitely. Obviously, their best player, Tariq Fosu, went to Brentford in January. So, yeah, he was probably their best player, I thought, in League One last year. So they're already losing some of their better players. I think I'm going to expect them to be mid-table next year. I don't think they're going to go down, but yeah, we never know. They might sign some good players in the summer. But yeah, we just don't know, especially after lockdown and all that. We don't know about the transfer window and when the season's going to start, things like that. But for me, Oxford are going to be mid-table next year.
Yeah, Oxford, they should try and use this as a positive rather than a negative. They should try and say, we made it to the playoff finals. We need to stay as a playoff team. So they should definitely try and get some more signs, try and keep the players they've got, and try and get the players again. That's what the team should be doing. But obviously, we've with the Championship and League One, League Two, they're such volatile leagues and change so much. Anything can happen. So who knows?
Yes, who knows? And now it's time for a little bit of football roundup. And starting off in the Championship, I better mention the result because it shocked me yesterday when I read it. I had to go, what? Wigan Athletic were playing Hull. Quite a big game. Two sides are in the relegation zone. Wigan Athletic is a bit uncertain at the moment with no owners and currently in administration. But they beat Hull City 8-0. It was 7-0 at half-time. I think in the second half they were frauds because they didn't score another 7. But this is a big, big result. Beating Hull 7-0, absolutely madness. I don't know where that puts Hull in the table and Wigan. Let's have a quick little look whilst I'm here.
Wigan are 13th in the league.
Okay, and Hull are 22nd, 1 point away from safety. So Hull might be playing in League One next season. Another tough team in League One. Dan can't wait.
Better stay up. I don't want to play Hull next year.
And that is everything in the football roundup this week. Well, I want to say, guys, thanks for joining me on today on the show. Will we see you next week for the 50th show? This will be the 50th episode next week.
Oh.
Yeah,
I didn't realise it was the 50th. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'll be there.
You'll be there, yeah. The big 5-0. We're getting old now. We're getting old. We better bring a birthday card or something. Actually, some breaking news has just come through. The the summer transfer window for the Premier League will start on the 27th of July and will end on October the 5th. That has just been announced. Breaking news. Well, finally, we can get to the end of the show. Thanks for listening. If you want to follow us on any of social medias, Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram's talk_pitch. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, or even this one, you want to see our faces, go onto YouTube, Pitchside Talk. If you want to go onto Mixcloud, if you want to listen to us offline, it's Pitchside Talk on Mixcloud as well. I have been George, and I'll see you next week, and ciao.
Bye.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.